Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. It's great to be with you here today. Can't wait to get into our Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday show, where we're going to be picking up where we left off last Wednesday, actually Tuesday, on episode 1117 on how your brain and body gets loaded with toxins. On that show, I went through the 10 American study. I went through how some people are not overeating by any means or under-moving or under-exercising, but they're over-fat is what we call it actually from a medical standpoint because their cells, their fat cells, their adipose tissue are literally swollen. And that happens. Honestly, it's been scientifically proven. This is without a shadow of a doubt things that people are dealing with on a daily basis, yet they've never been told. And they haven't been told this because this is relatively new, relatively state-of-the-art based medicine where unless you know what to look for, you don't know why some people are not able to lose the weight. They're not able to get rid of the inflammation. And that's the issue. The issue is this. People end up at 65, 75 years old with Alzheimer's, dementia, MS, and all sorts of different autoimmune-based issues. And they're wondering how this happened. Well, it happens early in life and it happens as we begin to accumulate all these toxins. So I do hope that you tuned into that show. On that show, I literally take you through it, how you're exposed to pesticides or heavy metals like aluminum or mercury. And then the next day, we went over high mercury fish. So, basically, I'm trying to take you through this functional medicine world and allow you to really just, I would say, engage and get yourself really interested in living an overall healthier lifestyle. Well, today what I want to do is not take you through how the body begins to get toxins from the 77,000 man-made chemicals we're exposed to, but rather, how do we prevent these toxins from overwhelming our brain, our nervous system, our muscles, or swelling up our fat so that we start to gain weight without even trying, right? These are the people that they've tried everything, every different diet plan. They've tried every different type of exercise. Things work maybe for maybe a week, 2 weeks, but they can never break past that plateau and they can never keep the weight off. So we're looking at wellness and we're looking at weight loss. Two different areas. Some people don't gain the weight like others. And people say well, how come that person does? We're both doing the same thing. Well, that's when genetics come into play. Remember, genetics come into play only after the environment has set the stage and there's been some type of triggering event, something that overflows the rain barrel. And it can be stress, it can be digestion, it can be maybe one big toxic dose. That's a possibility. Let's say someone had the mercury amalgams removed from their teeth. They're, those silver fillings, and I use silver in air quotes. They had those removed by a dentist that is not trained of how to take those out properly. They don't have you wearing the rubber-based stem inside the mouth. They don't have the right air filters. They don't have all those things happening. So if you don't have that, well, you're getting those mercury vapors that are going to be absorbed right through the capillaries in your mouth. They're going to be inhaled through the nasal passages or right into your lungs, right in your bloodstream. We cannot have that. We do not want that. So I've talked about biological dentistry in the past. I'm not going to talk about that today. What I do want to go over, though, is I have some good news and some bad news. That's how these things work. And you'll see that the bad news isn't so bad, but the good news, and in my opinion, the good news overwhelms it. So let's look into this. You have to understand that it's no longer in question, are we being exposed to these toxins? It's no longer a question, can these toxins lead to Alzheimer's? Can they lead to autism, certain types as well? Can it lead to nervous system disorders? Can it lead to mood-based disorders? How about fibromyalgia? All of these things it can lead to. And the reason is that something causes inflammation. So you have to understand, people say, it's an inflammatory-based disease. And I agree with you. The things that I named, a lot of them have to do with inflammation. Think about every autoimmune disease, inflammation. Think about all your pain, all your aches, all of those things, inflammation. So we know inflammation's at the heart of these things. The problem is, no one's ever asking, what's causing the inflammation? Well, one of those things that are causing the inflammation are toxins. And then you say, well, what are toxins? Well, a lot of previous shows on what toxins are, I wrote about them in the rain barrel effect. And what they are pesticides, heavy metals, triclosan in your toothpaste. It can be parabens in your shampoo and your conditioner. I mean, normal things that we use every day, we take for granted. We don't understand how they're literally infiltrating our body and how are they getting in there? Easy. Through the eyes, nose, and mouth, through our food, through breathing invisible vapors. We're outside, we're breathing in brake dust. We're breathing in any type of pollution in the air, right? All of those things. And the other thing is it's seeping in through our skin. So any type of bath products you're using, moisturizers, SPFs, cosmetics. Again, the average woman wears and uses 12 different bath products and cosmetics and leaves her house with more than 126 different chemicals on her body. And guys are not far behind. So I just want to say that. You're not escaping free because you're using aftershaves and using shampoos, you're using conditioners, you're using hair-based products, moisturizers, all those things. And so you have to understand that we're not always reading the fine print on these labels. And if you were, well, hopefully the company is actually truthful enough to tell you what's in that product because some aren't, right? There's so many different products that the FDA is not sitting there checking every single one. But what I want to say is this, is that I believe in we certainly want and need more truth in labeling. And we want to move towards more food-based products that we put in our skin because our skin literally absorbs them into the bloodstream. And it does so at the detriment of our body if there's something toxic in it because there's no barrier. Sure, there's some secretory IgA, there's some immune cells that can attack, but it goes right in your bloodstream. Rather, if you swallow something, at least your enzymes and stomach acid and bile, bacteria, at least they get a shot at it first and then your liver, but not always the case if it gets directly in through your nose. That's why, again, I talked about using a shower filter. People are in their shower, regular tap water is coming through that shower. They think nothing of it because they're not drinking it. But believe it or not, it can actually be more harmful. Because if you take a hot shower, that steam creates a vapor, right? Or the hot water creates steam, which creates a vapor or is a vapor. And then you breathe in that chlorine in through your nose, in through your mouth. It goes into your lungs and directly as a chlorine-based gas, it moves in your bloodstream. It can easily affect your thyroid. Just naming one, it can affect your thyroid without a doubt. So that's what we have to look at. It can displace iodine. And it's really important. I can't go through every single one today. And what I want to say is I want to give you the bad news first. Okay. The bad news is this. We can't prevent all these toxins from coming in our body. That's the bad news. We can prevent us using all of these negative-based products. Like I'm going to be giving you this Friday coming up the new dental floss that I switched to. Believe it or not, the most popular brand in the world contains triclosan and other chemicals that you don't want to be putting in your body. These are nerve agents. They're nerve toxins. And some of them have been proven to cause cancer. So it's important that we start moving to more natural-based products. And I try to share those, try to share my favorites always on Instagram. And I try to do that on the Friday reviews as well. So I'll be giving you one of those this upcoming Friday. And then, of course, and again, the Rain Barrel Effect, that book, and I will continue to mention it because it is the book that tells you how you got well. I mean, how you got sick, how you put on weight, why you're not aging is best to your ability, and how to get well again. And all of the proceeds, all of the profit goes to charity. And that's because, well, one, I want to do something nice for the charities that I believe in. But the other is that we need to share this information. And literally, it's like if you were to ever say, hey, I'd like you to check out my book, people are like, oh, you're so self-promotional, you're trying to promote. No, we're trying to get a message out. Just for people out there who don't know, an author makes very little to no money on most books. So, I mean, before I came out with this book too, I have other books. And you certainly do not write books to try to get rich or anything like that. And I think most people that are in this wellness-based field, it's just not their goal. Their goal is they were most likely sick at some point in their life or overweight or something happened to them. And now they're trying to pay it forward. Like they found out their answer and they're, again, trying to pay it forward. They're trying to give that information to others. So for the most part, if anyone's ever promoting their book, unless it is like a marketing scheme, I mean, really, you want to read the information because they're putting usually a decade of their life in that. And for the Rain Barrel Effect, I put 20 years of my life into that. That was 5 years of writing in the making to make sure that it was pared down from 800 something pages to less than half that to really make it absorbable. But again, all the products are in that book. Websites are in that book, ewg.org, Skin Deep, everything's in there. You can look at your products. You can look them up. You can see if they're healthy, see if they're safe. All right, enough about that. Let's get into it now. So the bad news is that we can do our best with choosing the proper products, non-toxic products, but there's nothing you can do about, every once in a while you go with your friends and you're at dinner and it's not the cleanest food. It's not all organic, right? And then you go out and you're walking outside. You're taking a nice little walk like I do in the city, and you're breathing in all the pollution, all the fumes from the cars and the trains and the subway and everything else that's out there, right? And what can you do? Well, you can walk around with a mask, but again, it's inevitable you're going to get some of this in. So here's how I like to look at it. I like to understand that as long as I give my body the nutrients that it needs and I follow some specific practices, it's going to do the detox on its own. And then I'll ramp it up every 12 weeks or so, just for a week, and I'll teach you how to do that as well. But you have to understand too, that a lot of people believe that they need to over-intervene with their body. Meaning that, so let's take for an example. If someone gets sick and they have a fever, let's say your child has a fever, you have a fever. If it's not above 103, and with young kids, you might want to look at more like 101 or so. But if it's not above 103, you have to understand that that fever is actually beneficial to the body. And I know that that seems strange because your doctor, your MD, your PCP, unless they're really integrative, unless they really have read up on how the body works, they're not going to understand what that fever is even meant for. Our body's not messing up. Our body creates the fever to increase the flow of white blood cells through the body, and it heats up the core of the body in order to kill viruses. It's a built-in mechanism to keep us well. And so that's why for myself, for my two daughters, my wife, my family, we look at it as we don't try to suppress that fever until it might get too high. Then yes, of course, we'll do that. Now, some people will just let it go. I don't believe in that. Everybody has their own limit, and I'm not here to judge either. I have a limit for myself, and I have a limit for my two daughters, because I'm not going to second guess myself and say, oh, well, what if it caused brain-based issues? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let it go to a higher level than most people might, between 101 and 103 for my daughters. And then for myself, I'll go a little bit above. I'll go 103 to 105. But again, you should not do that for you. You'll probably stop at 103. And that's okay, and that's great. That's what you should do. Now, keep in mind, I haven't had a fever for years. I mean, I've gotten occasional colds for sure, but I haven't gotten a fever where I wouldn't have to do that. Now let's look back hundreds of years to thousands of years. What did people do when they were sick? They tried to create a fever. You literally would try to create a fever in your body. So what does that mean? Well, there's a couple things that you could do. One, people would simply sit in a sauna and create an artificial fever. And to this day, it's an excellent thing to do. Unless you already have a fever, then don't sit in a sauna because you already have a fever. You don't need to do that. But if you're not feeling well, get in that sauna. Heat up that body. Kill the viruses. Allow your body to work on its detox-based potential. When you have a fever, you're typically sweating as well. We'll be talking about that in a moment. Got to get those toxins right out of the body in any means necessary. So that's a great way to do it. And then other people as well would do like a mustard seed bath, which we've done in Ayurveda to really heat up the body, create a lot of heat in it. And then, of course, other people as well will get in an ice bath and then they'll wrap themselves up to create that artificial fever. But again, if you're not familiar in that, we're not going to make that the topic of today's show. You might want to look into that, or we'll talk about that in the future. Other examples are this, though, because I just want to give you examples that our body knows what it's doing, but it needs to be supported. And the reason why it needs to be supported is because it was never intended. It was never built. Our biology is not built to deal with plastics or parabens or all the synthetic man-made chemicals. So we absolutely do need it to help it out. But remember, it has built-in detoxification processes. Think about this. You're on vacation. You're in a place where you're not supposed to drink the tap water, so you haven't been drinking the tap water, but you had a salad from the salad bar, and unfortunately they wash that with regular tap water. And you get a bacterial bug, and it goes through your stomach, right in your intestines, and now you have loose stool, you have diarrhea. Well, a lot of people will say, stop the diarrhea, stop the loose stool. You don't want to. As you do that, and I know, again, this seems counterproductive, but if you do that, what happens? You stop the body's natural mechanism for which it knows to expel this bacteria out of your body as fast as humanly possible. Same with what we call food poisoning, right? That bacterial overgrowth, that bacteria needs to get out of the body. Now, are there limits to this? Of course, just like a fever. What if you're losing massive amounts of electrolytes? What if you're starting to get weak, pale, sallow, all of those things? Of course, then you need to stop that. You need to slow down that. But at the same time, we should be using natural antimicrobials, natural intestinal-based products to get that out of the body. And again, if you need to, you'll turn to conventional medicine as well in acute-based instances. And I'm okay with that. I'm totally fine with that. Anything in life-saving circumstances, you can absolutely turn to the best of conventional medicine, and that's why we have it. But for everything that has to do with living a healthy life, pharmaceuticals, that can't be the answer. They never can, because they don't do anything to work on removing toxins, and they don't do anything to replace deficiencies. What they do is mask symptoms. Even with the loose stool, it's going to stop you from having that diarrhea. But is that the long-term solution? Of course not, because you never eliminated the bacteria. So if you need to save your life, because you don't want to have some type of heart-based arrhythmia, etc., I understand. I get that, and that makes sense. But now, let's either run the CBO protocol, or let's use with the citracidal drops, or let's run a stool test. Let's figure out, what did you get? What do we need to remove? Is it a parasite? Is it a bacterial, is it bacterial overgrowth? What was it? What type of gut bug, what type of pathogen are you now harboring inside of you that could only be proliferating and growing? So that's what I'm saying is our body have the built-in mechanisms, but there are limits to it, and it gets overwhelmed, and what we need to do is support it. So I want to give you right now 3 different ways that we know that are pretty straightforward in order to remove those toxins from the brain, from the fat cells, from the nervous system, wherever our body has been harboring them, like we spoke about last episode on how they get in there in episode 1117. 3 ways. Now, there are many, but these 3 are very straightforward, and they're actually pretty easy to do, honestly, and that's why I'm giving them to you. I don't try to give you convoluted and complicated methodologies to getting well. Here's why. We might be able to sound smart, all of those things given to you, but they don't necessarily work in the real world. And to me, the only thing that matters is getting you those real world results. So what I want to look at is this, 3 things today. 1 is exercise. I'm going to give you a little caveat to that. The second is caloric reduction. And the third is functional medicine detoxification protocols. Here's what I typically do. I typically give people number 1, which is exercise, and number 3, which is detox. I don't do a lot of caloric reduction. And the reason is I've seen it happen over and over again in clinical practice, that if you take someone's calories too low, a couple things happen to them, okay? And it's mainly with women, but it can happen with guys as well. You'll see an increase in stress hormones in the body, one of those being potentially cortisol, a decrease in thyroid, showing up as an increase in thyroid-stimulating hormone, and a decrease in progesterone, showing up as estrogen dominance. We see this all the time. And in women, especially the Pitta body type for women, we oftentimes see an increase in testosterone to deal with that stress. So what do we have? Well, we have a recipe for metabolic disaster if we do that. So if we're going to go lower calorie, we're only going to do it for anywhere between 3 days to 21 days maximum. I haven't seen too much benefit beyond the 21 days, 28 maximum, but really 21. And then we need to slowly add back in those carbs and increase those calories, especially for women. Now, we're going to go overboard? Of course we're not. But I haven't seen that be the best way. However, by reducing calories, there's less input, which does allow your body to work on what's currently there. And if we have a caloric reduction, well, we can begin to break down that adipose tissue, which you remember on the last show, is where a lot of these toxins are stored. Now, besides your fat of your body, your subcutaneous fat, the visceral fat, What else is fat? Well, the nervous system, parts of the nervous system, as well as the brain being about 90% fat. Easy places when your liver gets overwhelmed, your kidneys get overwhelmed, your lungs, your sweat, all of those things can't handle the toxic load anymore. They just stuff them away, literally pile them away in fat cells, adipose tissue. So now it's our job to break down that adipose tissue. And again, we can do that through caloric reduction, but I'm going to give you the other two right now. Exercise. But here's the interesting thing. Here's the interesting thing about exercise. You can actually get the benefits of exercise if you're not well right now, or you want to ramp up those benefits by doing a sauna. And I know I keep going back to this, but it's one of the healthiest things you can do. If you did not listen to my podcasts on how 19 minutes a day, just 5 days a week actually, of sauna can actually increase lifespan, decrease all-cause mortality, you have to check that out. So literally just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts. Just type in 19 minutes and you'll find that podcast. The research, amazing. Really like outstanding research. And a lot of people are talking about it now, which is great. Fantastic. And I also recommend some of my favorite saunas on that show for every price range. Okay, if you're not able to exercise, you can slowly ramp up your time with the sauna. You might only be able to do 5 minutes. Might only be able to do 130 degrees, 150 degrees. Totally fine, okay? Do it slow. Work your way up so that you don't have a Herxheimer reaction, so that you don't start to feel worse afterwards. You don't feel worse the next day. Remember, we don't need to sprint this. We want to work at this. We want to get healthy over weeks and months. And I'm telling you, that is the best way to do it as well. So exercise, sauna, but I need you to sweat a little bit. And the reason I need you to sweat is the heat will begin to, especially in infrared sauna, will start to pull out some of those heavy metals and toxins. But the sweat and the opening up and the dilation of those blood vessels will allow you to also push out mold, some types of candida toxins, heavy metals, chemicals right through the skin. And remember what I told you before, if we can get the liver a break, your body's going to be a whole lot happier because your liver has plenty to do filtering all that blood every 6 minutes, 24 hours a day without you thinking about it. So exercise, sauna, let's get that sweat going. It does not need to be to excess. Let's get the sweat going. Okay, another one, again, instead of the calorie reduction, I prefer fasting. I really do. Again, in the United States, we say this: if a little is good, a lot must be better. But it's just not always the case. It's simply not. Here's what I see. And you have to understand, is we are literally running one of the largest ongoing research studies, in my opinion, that's ever been done. And I know that there's a lot of doctors doing what I'm doing right now. But we've seen over 250,000 people, 250,000 consultations. And we have a lot of data. Here's what we see works. People do feel better a lot of times when they do that longer fast, right? They do the 16-hour fast. 16, not 60. And a lot of people, and we work with a lot of people, they feel better on a vegan-based diet. Let me tell you why. I'll tell you why. In the beginning, you are essentially allowing for a greater amount of autophagy to take place, a greater detoxification. You simply have less toxins coming in. You have less everything coming in. And if you're not eating meat, then you don't need as much strength of digestion because you might have really low hydrochloric acid right now. So it allows you to not have to produce as much and you don't have to expend as much energy. But here's what happens. After about 4 months, somewhere around the 4 to 6 month mark, to about 12 months. Seems 12, 18 months is typically the point for a lot of people. Not everyone, but a lot of people, especially the Vata-based body type and the Pitta as well, not the Kapha. And it's why I see people online preaching they're basically juicing for the majority of the day and they feel great. I look at their body and they're very lean, but their actual natural body type is the Kapha body type. They're naturally more anabolic. They can get away with it. Then this Vata body type, ectomorph, tries to mimic that because they're like, wow, this person's so healthy. Look at their skin. They're glowing. And they try to do it and they're literally in shambles. They have no energy. They have brain fog. They have fatigue. They have muscle weakness. They have no libido, no energy, no drive, no ambition. And that's because they're running through a lot of their reserves. So, and I'm also not even saying that you can't be a vegan for life. I'm not saying that. I support that lifestyle. I truly do. And I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of what percentage our practice is of people that are living a vegan lifestyle. And I think it's tremendous. I myself live a predominantly plant-based lifestyle. And what you're going to do is find out the right methodology for you. Most people, after a prolonged period of time, will feel great on a longer fast, but they'll eventually want to move more towards a 12 to 14 hour fast, which is better for the majority of the population. Somewhere around 7 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning. Works for most people. It works great. 6 in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning can work great as well. That's closer to what I do. But once you start getting going for the day, most people do not want to run off just fumes. They want to be able to actually use nutrients from the body. They want to be able to use some glucose, some amino acids. They want to be able to use some fat oxidation. It all just depends on what mode that they're using. Remember, a well-balanced body burns exactly like it should. You don't have to try to become fat adapted. If you're balanced, you're naturally fat adapted. You burn a greater percentage of body fat when you're in more of an aerobic-based mode, just walking around, moving around. And you're going to burn more in a lactic acid-based environment without as much fat oxidation when you're in anaerobic-based mode, when you're super stressed, or when you're working out doing anaerobic-based work such as weightlifting or sprints or HIIT or anything like that. So again, the goal is to become balanced and not push anything too far in any one direction for too long. Short term, not a problem. Typically not a problem. Long term, it could be a problem. And again, it is based somewhat on bioindividuality. Some people can do tremendous with no meat at all. Maybe just a little bit of fish or eggs a couple times a week. Are you that person? Only you will know once you get your body balanced. So what I like to show people and try to move people towards is we don't want to overeat, that's for sure. Caloric restriction, or lower calories in general, but not too low, where it lowers your hormones and lowers your metabolism, is one of the best ways to extend life. There's no doubt about that. That's pretty much set in stone. If you can say there's one thing we know, it's that if there is a caloric deficit, we are going to typically produce less growth hormone, IGF-1, and we're typically going to then live a longer life. That's set in stone right now, okay? So we can always fall back to that. But I want to give you one more. And that's that besides the daily sweating, which I would love you to be doing at least 5 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week minimum, get that body sweating. It can be through exercise. It can be through sauna. It can be through whatever methodology you get to get that body sweating. And then I want that fast. I want the fast to be somewhere between, if just when in doubt, 12 hours. 7 p.m. at night, stop eating, okay? And what if you have a strange bedtime schedule? Okay, is what it is. The more hours before midnight, all I can say, the better for sleep and stopping eating. But let's put it this way. If you can stop eating around 6 or 7 at night, go to bed around 10, you're going to be golden. Wake up around 6. Fantastic. Don't eat again till 7, about an hour after waking. I mean, that's in a nutshell. I mean, I've done much more in-depth podcasts. I would love you to listen to those and why, the why behind it, not just like, if someone just tunes in today, you're like, oh, you don't believe in this, this, and this. Not true. It's not, I mean, I can't give all shout outs to everything in a 30-minute podcast. And what I want to say is this, is that do the normal amount of exercise. Sweat daily. Try to fast 12 to 14 hours, okay? And then what I want you to do is this. Every 12 weeks, just like every single form of natural medicine except conventional medicine is preached forever, is every season, which is every 12 weeks, to do a seasonal detox. Now, each one of those detoxes in Ayurvedic, traditional Chinese medicine, going back to Native American medicine, every religion out there, it was a fast. You fasted for a prolonged period of time, couple days, 2-3 days, okay, sometimes longer. And you would start to have some downtime, so you wouldn't overexert yourself. And if you followed any of the Native American, you followed Ayurvedic, you followed Egyptian, you followed traditional Chinese medicine, or you followed bioregulatory medicine, you were always using something to support the detox pathways. I've gone through those before. I don't want to necessarily go through all of that today, but what I would like you to do is either work with your local functional medicine doctor, naturopathic doctor, or integrative health practitioner, and they will take you through a functional medicine detox. We recommend a 7-day every 12 weeks. That's what I do. That's what our community does. If you want to see what I do, exactly what I do, all the ingredients, you can listen to the podcast called How to Complete a Functional Medicine Detox. We will try to link that up in today's show notes. So simply go to stephencabral.com/1125, and I'll link up that functional medicine detox there. It's literally the best thing I can recommend to you so that you don't go insane, which is what I could do if I was thinking about every single thing that I'm being exposed to in the environment. Because I know them. Like, I've studied this. I've made this my life's work. And the problem is that that's sometimes a scary proposition. You're worried about all of these things. But what we can't do is worry ourselves to sickness. So what we need to do is control what we can control, buy the healthiest products we can buy the healthiest food we can buy. We do our daily fast to promote autophagy, to burn up those fat cells. We don't go overboard in our calories. Okay, we can still enjoy that nice, flex meal, cheat meal once a week. We do our exercise. We try to sweat 4 or 5 days a week minimum. Okay, that can be through sauna or exercise. And then every 12 weeks, we're going to complete a functional medicine detox. And I gave you before all of the phase 1 nutrients, all of the phase 2 nutrients. They're very specific. And what it allows is for your body to do its job at an even greater level. And then on a daily basis, I recommend using something like our daily foundational protocols. I use the level 3 protocol. You can use the levels that work for you. I'll link them up in the show notes. If it's the right fit for you, it's fantastic. If it's not, that's okay. What I always recommend is going to the page, looking at the ingredients, seeing what they are, and seeing if the products that you use match up to that. So that's what it's all about. Hopefully today's podcast was helpful. I want it to be hopeful as well. And what you to understand is that we can win. We can really rise up above the toxic environment that we can't always control in life. It really is a metaphor in life. We have to rise above the things that we can't always control to do what we can and not get overwhelmed with what we can't do. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Always appreciate your listens, your downloads, and your reviews. And as always, if this show was helpful, please do feel free to pass along to anyone else you believe it could serve. Thank you so much for just tuning in. I truly appreciate it. I honestly do. And that is why I love bringing you these fun deals we have going on at equilibriumnutrition.com. They're really for our podcast listeners, for our community. That's who we promote them to. That's who we really want to give them away to. And the reason we do it is because all of us, like my whole team and I, we love the health and fitness industry. We love this community. And what we want to be able to do is share our favorite things with you. That's the truth. And so right now, we've had this product called Daily Fruit and Vegetable Blend. We've had it now for almost 3 years, and it is by far and away one of our most popular products. Well, it's not going to stop. That product is continuing on and will continue on forever. I use it every single day. It's part of my morning routine. You probably heard about it before. I wake up, I mix 1 scoop of that in my tap water, my Berkey water. I squeeze a lime in there, pinch of sea salt, and sometimes a little raw local wildflower honey or a little bit of Manuka honey, just a half a teaspoon. And that is my morning drink, and I feel fantastic. I love it. I do that every morning. Well, we just came out with a new flavor. Now, that flavor was named by our community. That's the cool thing. Our community at CabralSupportGroup.com, they voted on it. It is called Crisp Apple. This is by far and away the best tasting greens and reds, because it's not just a greens powder, it's 22 fruit, vegetable, and superfoods in there. And this is a product that I know that you're going to love. It is now, because I've had it now for a couple months, because the nice thing about owning the company, right, founding it and getting to formulate, is that I get these products first. So I've been using this product now for a couple months. It has become my pre- and peri-workout drink, meaning like I make it before my workout and I'm drinking it during my workout. Amazing flavor. My kids love it. That's why it had to be kid approved. And so it is basically, it tastes like apple juice. It's absolutely fantastic. Right now, what we have going on at equilibriumnutrition.com is a buy 2, get 1 free of the unflavored for the people that love the unflavored, basically just juiced fruits and veggies without the sugar, because you're just getting the living micronutrients from that and the superfoods. So whenever we debut something, we like you to be the first to know, and we like to do something special. This is literally a $70 savings, a $69.95 savings. Buy 2, get 1 free. Go in with your friends, stock up, save for later. If your spouse uses it, great, get one for them. If they don't use it, make sure that they're getting in their 22 organic fruits and veggies. I'm telling you right now, a lot of us try to focus on our greens, right? Get our 7 to 9 servings a day. But a lot of the time, we're not getting a wide variety of our fruits and our vegetables, and this is an easy way to do it. I use it as part of my fail-safe, as part of the daily nutritional or daily foundational protocol. So head on over while supplies last at equilibriumnutrition.com to get your unflavored or the brand new debut, the pre-sale of the crisp apple flavor. Take care, everyone. Thanks so much. I'll talk with you soon.